and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. I am Jeanne Gallagher, and I'm here with our longevity specialist, Denise Stegall. Hey, Denise.
Hello, hello.
And so what's our subject for today?
Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, on another episode, we were talking about the win. What is the win in health and wellness? And the win, of course, is an acronym. You know, I love these. That stands for Whole Foods, Inspired Choices, and Nourishing Practices. So we talked about the whole foods piece, which is always where I believe we need to start. So it's that nutritional integrity. But inspired choices is equally as important. You know, with this acronym, there's not one piece that is more important than the other. They really all go hand in hand. So inspired choices. Obviously, when we're talking about health and wellness, we're talking about food choices, we're talking about activity choices, things like that. But when I think of the food piece, what comes to my mind with this inspired choice concept is mindful eating. And I know we've talked about that a bit in the past, but I still feel that as we're making choices, what are we eating? When are we eating? Who are we eating with? This is all part of that mindful eating.
Mm.
I think in the past we've talked more about, you know, sitting and enjoying the food, savoring the food, which is absolutely a huge part of it. But these other pieces are go along with it. You know, are you did you buy a salad at McDonald's and you're, you know, kind of eating it with on your lap while you're, you know, in the car and you're like eating like this at, you know, kind of forking it in at the you know, every red light that you come across? Or do you schedule the time to sit down and have lunch outside? This time of year, it's absolutely amazing here in Minnesota. So today I scheduled the time to have my lovely salad and I sat outside and listened to the birds. And they were having a field day out there today. So this is, you know, mindful eating is such an important part of our life and really part of when that I think is a simple thing that we can change and include.
It's really important too, because if it's not just like, well, I love what you said. It's not just the food choices, but it's also where you do it and the activities. Because if you're making a concerted effort on the W, on the whole foods, but you're not taking care of the activity piece, and you're not building muscle, and you're not doing those things, you really are not going to be on track for that acronym win piece that we're looking for, and how important that is. Or if you are or conversely, if you're making great activity choices but you're not eating enough protein and you're not eating enough food to support the activity that you're doing, or drinking enough water with electrolytes in the heat that we've been having, you're really setting yourself backwards.
Absolutely. And there is that part of this that where you have to listen to your body and what you're saying. That's a big part of it. Listen to those cues that your body is sending. I think we have gotten to a place where we don't listen to those cues, or we don't know what they are when we're experiencing them. So these physical kind of attributes of mindful eating, you know, what is my body saying to me? You know, am I even hungry? And what am I hungry for? That's a really good a piece that I think we really need to focus on. What are we hungry for? So I've been doing a little bit of a trial. I do this quite often as a longevity specialist. I will try something new, whether it's a new supplement or a new eating style concept. And I have to say, earlier today, I was really hungry. And I thought, okay, well, I've got the calories. I see where I am calorie wise, but what am I hungry for? Now, I
Mm.
know me, I know I love salty snacks. I know I can go and find there's something in my pantry that I could put peanut butter on. But was that really what my body needed? No, my body was really craving protein. So
Mhm.
that was something that I had to really be thoughtful, really be mindful about. Because, yeah, sure, I could have eaten anything that would have made my tummy stop grumbling, but what was actually going to make me physically feel good.
Mhm.
And one, check off the W in win, um, but also help me physically. Because, when you're tired and you're hungry and you're not getting enough protein, all of a sudden, workouts are harder. Even
Mhm.
being staying concentrating is difficult, and everything gets harder when we are not nourishing our bodies the way our bodies need to be nourished.
The other
So
thing
I
that
think
gets harder through that process is the ability to make good decisions.
absolutely.
And that is almost really the key when you're talking about inspired choices and your whole, what do I need? If you're a quart down on protein,
Mhm.
the first thing that you're going to grab is the bag of potato chips because it's
Right.
easier,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And that's not really what your body needed. Well, it's not
Hmm.
really, it isn't what your body needed. And it's harder, it takes more effort to find the protein and eat the protein and get it ready and then eat the protein than it does to grab that quick snack.
Hmm.
But it is, if you have
Hmm.
food prep and you have things that are handy and you remember that they're there, there's the other piece, then you can grab that quickly.
So, and this is something that I think of as personalized nutrition. We're
Mm-hmm.
all, we see there's these buzzwords out in the field, the medical and wellness world, personalized medicine. I like the thought of personalized nutrition. And that's exactly what I was talking about. What does my body need? What does your body need? I'm
Mm-hmm.
5 foot tall. I need a lot less than somebody who's 6 foot tall. Whether it's a man or a woman, I just don't need as much, one, calories. But because I'm a runner, I also need different types of calories.
Mm-hmm.
So some days I have a higher carbohydrate load, then other days I'm more a little higher in protein. Usually those are days after a long run. And my long runs have actually gotten shorter as I've gotten older, but I still consider them a long run. So that personalized nutrition to me is really knowing what you like. That's a big deal. And going for what works for you. Again, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, not just the taste, because the chips, yeah, I love chips too. Anything salty, I'm in for. Um, but I do think also it takes a little bit again of a mindfulness. So we'll go into back to that mindful eating piece. It takes a little bit of that mindful eating practice to understand what your personalized nutrition actually is. And
Mm-hmm.
to your point before about having the food prepped and in the refrigerator ready for you to eat, there's one trick that I have that I have everybody that I've told this trick to and have they've put into practice. They've saved so much money on food waste. So when I prepare chicken, I'll prepare. There's only 2 of us that live here, but I eat chicken every day pretty much. I'll make 6 chicken breasts,
Mm-hmm.
cut a couple of them up. They all go into a glass container so you can see what is in the refrigerator. I don't have any plastic containers anymore, anything that's colorful. Remember back in the day, Tupperware had all these
Yeah.
funky colors, none of that. Because how often do you go into the refrigerator and like, oh, what's that in the back of the refrigerator? Like, oh man, I forgot I had that. That was that really good chicken curry that I made that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So those glass containers really do help for food prep, but also to eliminate food waste. Because that I think is another big piece of this win.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be we want to be eating whole foods. We want to be eating the best quality foods, and yes, sometimes they're a little bit more expensive. So we don't want to waste them by forgetting they're there or just kind of prepping them and sticking them in the back of the fridge.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I have this last concept that I think fits under inspired choices. So I'd like your opinion on this one.
Okay.
Joyful experimentation.
Does it include Brussels sprouts? Because I might not like this one.
It does not need to include Brussels
Okay.
sprouts if you do
Okay, then
not
go
like
ahead.
Brussels sprouts. However, if you've never eaten a Brussels sprout,
Ugh.
I would say yes, because there's so many great ways to make Brussels sprouts. Little bit of a backstory. You know this. My parents are from England. They grew up in London during a war. When I grew up in the 70s, we had lots of frozen, soggy vegetables. My mother overboiled the heck out of them. And so I never liked veggies very much when I was a kid because they were all mushy and they kind of honestly all tasted the same. Now, as an adult, well, when I was in college, I started experimenting. And this is kind of where this concept of joyful experimentation came in. Because I love to cook, I like to experiment with different recipes and different cuisines. And I think this is a time where that comes in. If you know you want to eat better and be excited about it and make good choices, but you're eating the same thing over and over again, how boring is that? So finding different recipes, really knowing the differentiations of when it comes to spices. Like I say this, I can eat chicken every day of the year and it tastes different because I know different herbs and seasons, their kind of flavor profiles. So if I want Mexican, I go for, cilantro. If I want more Greek, I go for oregano, those kinds of things. So I think this is where you can really have a lot of fun in experimenting with new foods, new cuisines, maybe things that you think you hate that you might find a new love for.
I love how you say that. Joyful experimentation.
It makes it more fun.
Yes, that's great. And so inspired choices, not just your food, but your activity, where you eat your food. Make great choices while you eat whole food. And then we're going to hear about new new what are we doing next time? N?
Oh,
I wrote
next
it down,
time
but I
we're going
can't
to
read my
talk about,
writing.
yes, next, I do that too. Next time we are going to talk about nourishing practices.
There it is. Nourishing was not, there's a few missing letters in my scribble. Nourishing practices. Denise, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeanne. Always a blast.
Hello, everyone. This is Jeanne Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows, each show, and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter, how does that apply to me, how do I change, what do I need to do, how do I even create a healthy living shopping list, make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach, and you can find her at healthylivinglist.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jeanne Gallagher, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. And I'm excited to introduce to you all Melody Owen. Hi, Melody. How are you?
Well, thank you. How are you?
Great, and thank you so much for being here. And before we get started, Melody, give us a little bit of your background, and then we're going to just dive in.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. So I'm Melody Ann Owen. We were just talking about books and how much I love them and how they've changed my life and how it's driven me to my passion of helping people get their nonfiction books written, published out into the world, get the message out, because I think you can make so much impact. And the other thing I love to do is be outside, which is what Jeanne and I were talking about when we talked about me coming on the show.
And yes, I'm dying to get into the onside part. And then we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about the outside and how that has affected you and your life. But before that, tell us a little bit about Author Nation and what is that?
Absolutely. So there are a lot of people who want to write books, and most of them do not finish writing the book. Not even that first draft most of the time, because it is such a large project. It's overwhelming, it's big. And so what I've done, I've been in publishing, started off with Oxford University Press in the 90s, been around for a long time. I've seen the publishing world transform completely. And what I've noticed is there are a lot of authors who now have a lot of power because there's indie publishing, and yet they don't have the knowledge base to actually go from zero to published and successful. And so I've developed a book success blueprint, which is divided into 5 stages. I help you plan your book, write your book, publish your book, launch your book, and promote your book. Promote means integrate into your life and business in my mind. And on top of that, because knowledge is one thing, but actually applying that knowledge to the project you're working on is a completely different thing. I actually have we do weekly office hours, weekly writing sessions, we do group coaching, we do Q&As. So although there's this path, I help you because you're unique, right? Your book is unique and you are unique. And yes, generally you have to plan and write and publish, but how you are doing it is unique to you. And so people come in and they work with me in group situations and in office hours, sometimes one-on-one. And we help you get your book, your message, and your uniqueness out into the world. And so that's what I do with Author Nation.
How did you get started?
Ooh, so as I said,
simple question, hard answer.
I know. Well, I'll give you the really short version. I started with Oxford University Press in South America in the 1990s. I was their educational consultant. So I worked with all the schools, helping them place the right books, helping the teachers, training them with the book, doing the keynotes at the conferences, traveling around, meeting clients, teacher training, and all of that. And that's how it started. I've also been a college instructor for the English language. So I've helped a lot of people write a lot of materials, both mass and academic. And so I've just slowly built it up from there. And as the world changed, as publishing changed, I was super excited. This whole idea of putting the power into the hands of the author is amazing. It's kind of like when the printing press happened, right? You all of a sudden you could print lots and lots and lots, and lots of people could learn to read. Well, I think that, how publishing is working now, we get to write our book and sell it to exactly the right people who want it and integrate it into our lives and businesses that way. And for me, that's so exciting. So as I watched it changed, I changed to figure out what people needed next. And my current iteration based on what the publishing world looks like today is Author Nation.
And it's changed so much with, well, the invention of the internet, but even more specifically, people have seemed to move from, I have a hard time with this one, move from the libraries or the bookstores to the online sales.
Right.
And mostly that big behemoth that we all buy from and we wish we didn't, but we still do it.
Yes.
Or maybe that's just my feelings, but you've noticed all of that change so much when you're talking about authors being able to get their books directly to the right people that they're meant to. Has that actually become easier with the internet and Amazon and all of that?
Yes, authors can now sell their books directly from their websites if they wish, and they can also sell them on larger platforms if they wish. In fact, they can do both. They can publish their own ebooks. Getting a physical book published used to be a crazy difficult thing, but now you can do print on demand. And an ebook, you can easily sell an ebook from your website that can go on any platform. And recently audiobooks. So everyone consumes books in the way that makes sense to them. And audiobooks have become really important in today's world because we like to multitask. We want to listen to a book while we're washing dishes, while we're driving, while we're, doing whatever else we're doing. And so listening to books has become huge in recent years because we're all wanting to listen while we're doing something else. And so that's been the biggest growth in books in the past few years.
When would somebody decide that it's time to talk to you to help them with their project? Are there steps that they need to do before they call on you, or?
No, if you think you want to write a book, call me and I will just sit down with you for half an hour and we'll figure out, do you really want to write a book? So some people come to me and they say, I'm just starting a business. I've just quit my job. I have no money and I want to write a book and I want that to launch my business. And it's like, well, maybe you should go find a few clients first and, figure out, let's make sure you've got your messaging down. And so just come straight to me for half an hour. One of the biggest mistakes authors make when they don't come to somebody before they start writing and publishing the book is that they don't write the right book. I know that sounds a little odd, but it
What
actually,
does that mean?
yeah, so it really matters what book you're going to publish. So we often think, okay, I have a message. I'm going to just sit down and I'm going to write the book and I'm going to put it out in the world. And then they maybe sell 100 books if they're lucky. And they're like, what's wrong? It's like, well, did you think about how you wanted to integrate this into your life and business? Did you think about like, okay, Amazon, it's a huge search engine, right? Did you think about it that way? Did you think about you're a speaker and how you can integrate your book into your speaking world? Like, did you think about how you can integrate it? And did you think about the readers? And they're like, I know what they need. Yeah, you know what they need, but do you know what they think they need? Do you know what that link is going to be to get their, how are you grabbing their attention if you don't know them? You know, in order to get someone to continue to turn pages, and I mean, how many books have you stopped at, you know, about 30% or 10 pages or whatnot? If you really want readers to read your entire book and continue following you, you need to understand them. You need to understand what they want. You know, you might think you know what they want, but they think they know what they want. And those two things may not match. And there's some research that needs to be done there if you want to write a book that truly matters and that readers not just buy and read, but are so excited about it, they review, and then they go recommend it. Because that's, you know, if what you want to do is sell books, that's huge, right?
And you know, everybody wants the, I know it's fiction and not nonfiction, but the example, isn't it the Twilight series and the author that had a dream, woke up and wrote a book, and then all of a sudden she's famous, right? It all, you know, it's that Instagram moment of, or that iceberg picture where you see the success on the top and all what you don't see, it's what's down below. But we all want to be found quickly, and it doesn't always happen that way. But with the right direction, you have a better chance.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, because you'll understand yourself, your goals, and you'll understand your readers' goals. And if you can match all of those, then you can come up with the right content that in the end people will be super excited about.
And now you have, through your business and Author Nation, I'm sure that you've met so many different types of people and many different subjects as well. Do you have a favorite that you like to work with?
I love working with memoirs. I really love working with memoirs. I love working with all books. I think memoirs hold a special place in my heart because it's so intimate. It's this person's life that they're allowing to unfold in front of me. And that's just really special. I love experts. I love working with I've worked with medical doctors and other people in the health and wellness profession. I love them. I love business books. I love personal essays. I love nonfiction books. But memoirs they're intimate and it's such a personal revelation. And I just think that they're brave people. So that, you know, I'll don't want to play favorites, but I do love memoirs.
And before we're done, we'll make sure that we get your contact information out there. But, you know, I appreciate you sharing that. And what I really want to do, usually we spend a lot of time talking about business and things, but after talking with you initially, I really want to switch gears. And so if anybody's interested, we'll make sure that Melody's contact, we'll talk about Melody's contact information, but I really want to get into the outdoors piece for you. And because let's start with your story there, because there's been some life-changing things that have happened. And I think that what you're working with and working on is going to be so helpful for their listeners.
Absolutely. So I will start by saying I love to hike. I'm an outdoorsy person. I grew up on a farm. I've always loved the outdoors. I grew up in Ontario. We used to spend a lot of time in the Canadian Shield. Think rocks, forests, and lakes. That's it. Just rocks, forests, lakes. That was my childhood, right? And so I've always loved the outdoors. So I'm a hiker. And I love to, at least once a year, go on a trip where there's no internet, there's no phone, there's no access. It's just you and nature. I love doing that. And I was doing that last summer. In fact, flew up to the Yukon and I was hiking in the middle of the Yukon. So if you are American, think Alaska. So in the middle of Alaska, right? The grizzly bears and the, the caribou. And so I was up in the Yukon, I was hiking, and I do what is called backcountry hiking. So there's no car involved. You start at a trailhead and you start hiking in. Day after day, you're going further and further away from roads and civilization. So there I was, having the time of my life, got up one day, and we had to hike over this pass. So it was, kind of straight, it felt straight up and straight down. And it was, that was going to be the hardest part of the day. And so I made it to the top, and we were standing at the top, and we're like, this is wonderful. And it started hailing. So I thought I was going to sit up there in the sunshine and have lunch. But of course, we're in the Yukon and the weather can change in an instant. So we started heading down the other side and off toward the campsite, and finally came over this crest, and I saw the campsite. Okay, you'll laugh. I saw the outhouse. There's the outhouse, right? That's what you can see, because the tent pads
Those are important.
right. But that's what stands out in a campsite, is the outhouse. And I'm like, there's the outhouse. We're so close. And I was crossing a boulder field. So think, boulders the size of the desk you're in front of. And I was crossing a boulder field, and I had my 40-pound backpack on, and I slipped. I fell into the boulder field. My right foot got caught between two boulders, and the rest of me and my backpack fell. And as we fell, my body turned. So my foot was caught, my body turned. I won't get graphic, but I broke my leg quite badly. And so I pulled myself out, and I pulled myself back up on the big boulder, and I laid down on my side so that my legs and feet were together. And I said to my hiking partner, I said, I've broken my leg. I'm sure I didn't quite say it that politely, but I said something. So I broke my leg, and call rescue. So we have a satellite phone, we have emergency blanket, we have extra water, we have water tablets, we have painkillers, we have what you need, right? But
can we just stop there for a second?
Sure.
Because I think that that's really important. And a lot of people that hike are familiar with the 10 essentials, the things you're supposed to bring with you. But I think it's important to just stop for a second in the story to say how important that is, because you never know when something's going to happen. And what I've noticed in my hiking career, if you will, or whatever that happens to be, is that people that hike more often respect the fact that they're hiking, they should bring more things. Yes. And whether that hiking list is the 10 essentials, I like to toss in the extra on, which is a splint. But there's the important things to be taking with you to make sure not only that you take care of yourself, but also the idea is you come across somebody else and you have material and things to offer assistance to somebody else that you might find that's injured on the trail, and how important that is.
And that happened with us, because we had a satellite phone, but there happened to be a man near us who had a satellite phone that was directly to his daughter, who was an employee of Yukon Parks. So he called her instead, which means they cut off hours and hours and hours of rescue. So the helicopter was there in 5 hours, which is
that's unusual.
Nothing in the Yukon, right? Which is nothing in the Yukon. And here's the thing, in talking about essentials and making sure you have enough and more than enough. So I was wrapped up we both had emergency blankets. I was wrapped up in all the blankets. We'd put stuff under me because I was on a boulder, right? So they'd put stuff under me. So the other gentleman stayed. So they wrapped me up. They gave me the painkillers. And then when the helicopter came, flew right over us, didn't see us. Because we're just this speck in this huge, vast land. And they flew right over us. And then they came back and they flew right over us again. And sunset was coming. And in the Yukon, if sunset comes, that helicopter's leaving and I'm spending the night there. So I said to my hiking partner, I said, take one of our emergency blankets and wave it around. And that's what he did. And that's what the helicopter saw. They came, they got me, and they evacuated me. And I went into surgery, and I've had a recovery, which has been really hard because I want to be active. And that was last August, and here we are in July. So how many months is that? And I still can't run. So
Yeah, it's difficult. And before we go further, I just also want to make a point here because you mentioned 5 hours in the Yukon, and even if you're in the United States and if you're in New England and hiking in the White Mountains, or you're in California and you're hiking in the Sierras, the rescue is not a fast thing.
no.
Because when you hit that SOS button, that is going to initiate that process. But what happens is whoever the whether it's search and rescue or fish and game or whomever is the governing body of the rescue process, they're calling in volunteers, they're gathering information, they're gathering your location and also equipment, and making a plan in order to rescue you, whether that's hiking in or helicopter rescue. And being able to be 5 hours seems like an incredibly long amount of time, but honestly, it's not at all. It's not unusual for it to be twice that length. And you have to be, like you mentioned, you really have to be ready to spend the night to wait for an extraction the next day if necessary.
And that was it. We needed to know what to do if I had to spend the night, right? With a fracture that meant surgery. Like I have utensils now, and it sounds like knives and forks. It's not what I mean. I have hardware in my legs. So I mean, I could not walk at all. So we would have to figure out how I was going to spend the night. And we were prepared for that, luckily. And double lucky I didn't have to do it, because I would have enjoyed that.
Well, yeah, if you weren't prepared, you might have had to. There's always that chance. And so one of the things that we're going to focus on in just how traumatic that whole process is.
Oh, yes.
That is that itself, but also the healing process. So in this is the part that I think that people are going to find, I hope that people will find helpful. And it's interesting as we were talking, because as I mentioned, I had my hip replaced back in March, which was a voluntary activity versus the involuntary activity that you went through. But the care of your body, or the strength of your body going into a traumatic event like that, has a lot of effect on the results, but mentally and how difficult it is. So let's talk about that, the healing process, and having to be, when you're an active person, having to be okay with not being active to the level that you expect yourself to be active at. I struggle with this one still, but yes. So let's talk a little bit about that. So now you've been extracted, you've had surgery, multiple or one?
One surgery, it only took one surgery, luckily. So I was extracted, surgery, and then sent home. So now I'm home. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. I'm home. And I'm on so much medication, I can do nothing. I'm a business owner. This is not a good thing, right? It's not a good thing for me mentally, financially, physically. You know, my eldest daughter gave up, a week of her work and came and stayed with me and made sure I got all my meds on time. And so there was just, you go from this person who's like hiking through hell and is a hero in their own mind, to this person who's lying in bed and somebody is bringing the medication.
Can't get them to the bathroom by themselves.
Right? They can't get, who's bringing the medicine and getting them to the bathroom.
2 days ago, you had a 40-pound pack and you were at the top of that peak. And now you need help to get to the bathroom.
Yeah. Wash my hair. So so that was really, really hard. And of course, I wanted to get up, and first I just wanted to get up and function and work. Forget hiking or anything like that. I just wanted to get up and function and work, and I couldn't. And my physiotherapy to learn to walk again didn't start for 6 weeks. I couldn't get my foot in the boot. It was so swollen. So I was so swollen, they couldn't put a cast on me, and the cast boot, they couldn't get me in the cast boot. And my foot was stuck in like pointed. So because of the damage in like the muscle and the soft tissue damage, I was stuck swollen with a pointed foot. And so all I could do is try to move my toes. And then so they had to wait for physio for me to be able to just heal enough for physio, and that took 6 weeks. So I didn't start physio for 6 weeks. So I can't even get a boot on. So it's very luckily, good and bad, but because I had a pole put in the middle of my leg, so I don't have a metal plate. I have like a pole in the middle of my leg that was clamped and then screwed into place. Luckily, I my leg wasn't, some people after you've broken your leg, you have to be in a cast. I didn't have to be in a cast, but I couldn't put any pressure on it and I couldn't really get up. So that took 6 weeks. And then I started physio. And they didn't start me walking. They just started, just I'm lying on the table and they're manipulating, right? That's all we could do. And I slowly learned to walk. I think, I was walking by the end of the year. And I remember saying to my physiotherapist after I walked, I'm like, great, I can't wait to get back to volleyball. And this is my mind, right?
Right.
I'm ready to get back to my life. Thank you very much. And she gave me this side eye, right? Like, what are you talking about? You won't be doing that anytime soon. So, and I'm still not playing volleyball. Here we are in July, and I'm still not playing volleyball, and I can't run. I'm hiking again. I started hiking. Well, I started going out for outdoor walks in June. It's not called hiking. But there's been this whole, when we're talking about my business and my health and being active, there's been this whole story I've been telling myself that I've had to continue to monitor my story, right? The first story was, oh, I'm, get me off these pain meds, get me out of here. I want to get on with my life. I want to work. I want to play volleyball. I want to hike. I want to go bike riding, all these things I love to do. That was my story, right? It's like, I'm going to wrap this up in a minute, guys. Don't worry. That was my first story. And then my second story was, I'm so depressed because my first story didn't work out. And, cognitively, intellectually, I knew my first story didn't make sense. But not, the rest of your body just doesn't always understand that, So my second story was, this is awful. My life is awful. And why am I bothering? And, so I went through this like roller coaster of emotions and these stories I was telling myself. And I really had to start doing a lot of self-talk, right? When a thought comes up. So, okay, where is this thought coming from? Right? What, is this true? Right? Is this useful? Is this useful?
Wow. That's an interesting question to have figured out to ask yourself.
Yeah, I had to start asking my questions. Is this true? Like, what are the facts here? And is it useful? Is this helping you heal, or is it going to hinder your healing? And so I had to start questioning it and then reframing the story and getting to the place where, so because at first I was like, I will walk by December 31st and I will hike by June and I will play volleyball by July. And, I had all these things laid out. So eventually I had to change those grand plans into, what am I doing today? What can I do today that will help my tomorrow self, my future self? Right.
I can appreciate that as well, because after surgery, I'm like, well, my expectations are to do all of those things. And when I've set expectations for myself and you don't fulfill them, and your doctors are telling you, you're doing a great job, you're so far ahead. Well, no, I'm not, because I've only done this. Well, what you don't realize is that your expectations are really, number one, far from accurate.
Yes.
Because if you ask the doctor what your expectations are, they would be far below what you might be attaining.
Yes.
or far below where you're way below what you're thinking you should be able to do.
Yes. And one doctor, when I asked, he said, about 4 months. But what he meant is I could walk again in 4 months. But of course, I heard 4 months and
4
just
months.
I
4
was
months volleyball.
4 months, everything. But
Yeah.
the reality is it's 12 to 18 months for recovery,
Yeah.
right? And that took a while for me to accept that as my reality.
Yeah, what's interesting for me is, so my surgery was in March and this is the end of July, and I can't run. Number one, I hate running. I abhor running, and but the fact that I can't run is really pissing me off a lot.
Yes.
So like, well, somebody says, well, why do you want to run? You don't want to run. Like, what if I have to run across the street? Okay, I'm not going to go run a 5K or a whatever, but I want to be. It's one of those in my brain. It's one of those milestones that says I'm okay. I can hike, but not huge elevations,
Yes.
but I can, but not to the expectation that I would want to. And it's interesting that I love what you are saying, because is it useful? Is what you're expecting or thinking, is it really useful? And the answer is, it's great to have a goal, but feeling that you're behind is definitely not useful, because you are where your body is, and not because you were laying around afterwards. You've been working at it.
Yes, exactly. I remember one doctor appointment, I said, I'm going to start hiking again. He kind of looked up at me. He says, well, you're doing really, really well then. And I had to stop and think, oh, 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 should I be hiking? Right? Like,
Right.
you know?
I might have snuck on a little trail and asked for forgiveness later. Oh, by the way, yes, I did. I did a couple of miles, but the ground was uneven.
Yes,
But it
exactly.
wasn't really steep.
Yeah. And they've done studies that people who do 2 hours of, it doesn't have to be highly vigorous, but some kind of cardio a week, their brain function is much better, right? And so for me, physical activity, being an outdoor person, isn't just it's not tied to looking good. For me, it's tied to function. So and being outdoors is actually tied to mental wellness. So whenever I go out for a hike, right, those times when I'm, before the accident in Yukon, you got to sit with yourself, right? You get to sit with yourself. There's no other noise going on around you. So there's, for me, being an outdoor person, working on the outside, outside in, is that peace, the mental wellness, the physical fitness, the brain health. Those are all really important. I think a lot of people, and I don't know if you want to get into this too much, but I think a lot of people think about fit as in, I look good in that dress. And looking good in a dress is nice, but looking good in the dress isn't what is going to keep you functional and fit, for a long time, right? So I think for me, it's more about function. And that's something my doctor asked, like, what's important to you? And I said, I want to function. I want to carry my groceries to the kitchen. I want to hike to the top of the mountain and see those fabulous views. I want to be able to be safe in nature so that I can go out there and be with myself and get the peace and the I don't know how to explain what happens in nature. Well, it's this moment with yourself that puts everything back together after.
Quiet.
Yeah, just, the world moves quickly and it's really good just to get out. And so for me, being outside is it's it's like my church in a sense, right?
Very much so. And when I was hiking on Sunday, there were two people, an older gentleman, and I saw him twice, and another person, and they're hiking, and their radio is on, and they're playing music, which is annoying for anybody that's hiking and listening to somebody else's music, but that's a whole nother thing. But they were doing that, and when I saw I really had to work hard to keep my mouth shut because it's none of my business what they do. But
Yeah.
what I wanted to say to this gentleman was, you can't hear the birds
Yes.
by doing that. Do you
Yes.
realize what you're missing? Not only that, but you can't hear that bear that might be in the woods beside you. But other than that part, you can't hear the birds.
Yes, yes. And I've been hiking again, and I think it's really important to listen to your environment. One, you can't hear the birds. And two, I was hiking with a friend recently, and he went down this gully to take a photograph, and I couldn't get down and up yet. And so I sat at the top, and I was just sitting there, and I wasn't really paying much attention. But then all of a sudden, all the birds stopped singing. And I
Oh.
noticed that all the birds stopped singing. And even though I wasn't necessarily listening to them, my brain went, hey, what's changed? And then a couple of them started doing that trill, like, brr, like something's wrong. And I thought, oh, okay. So I stood up and I started speaking and calling out, because obviously there's something around here that the birds are warning everyone about. And so it could have been a bear. Where I live, it could be a bear, it could be a cougar, right? You know, it could be a coyote, it could be, you know. So I just thought, well, I'll stand up and I'll make noise, because if another predator, because humans are predators, if another predator could come down the walk and we surprised each other, that could be a huge problem. But if I stood up and I sing or yell or speak up, then that predator will know that this predator is there and will go in another direction. And so actually, if you're going to be out back, not just for the sake of the birds, but, you know, listening to the birds, but just, you know, don't listen to music.
Yeah. Yeah, my most uncomfortable encounter was the mountain lion that I could hear that was really not nearby. And that was, that was a little whew, freakish. But yes, but I could hear him or her. And the people there was a couple of people on horses a ways in front of me, and they yelled back to make sure I was okay. So I could hear them. I could hear the cat, and so it is. And this mental piece in being outside is so important. And one of the things that I struggle with is doing more than I'm supposed to, because my expectations are. So this past, actually 2 weeks ago, I integrated another activity that I haven't done since surgery. And I am not doing it this week because my shoulder said, that was a lot.
Yeah.
Not even the part that I got operated on. A different part of my body said, sorry, but I think that you are trying too hard. And to have to, last night I thought, if tomorrow morning when I wake up, if I really modify, I could probably do this. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I said, you know what? I have to turn my alarm off, because there's a reason that the PT person told me don't do anything until next Tuesday to that shoulder.
Yes.
So I had to listen, and it was really hard to make that decision.
Yes.
Really hard.
It's so hard. When I started going back to the gym, I immediately got on the treadmill, and then I started running, and then I got shin splints. And then I had to back up again.
Yeah.
Let that heal. And then I thought, okay, I'll do the stairs and the elliptical instead. And now I'm walking on the treadmill, but I'm not running too hard on the treadmill yet. So I it's like I went too fast, and your body will tell you if you go too fast. I've also done a couple of hikes that I realized after, it was like, well, that was overdoing it. And so I've had to, think more about what I'm going to hike. And it's funny for me, it's not distance, or elevation, it's what's underfoot. So if I'm on a nice, dirt path, I can walk and walk and walk now. But as soon as there are rocks and roots, I can't. So it's about understanding what you can and can't do, and then doing a little bit, and this is going to sound odd, but I do a little bit of what's hard, but only a little bit each time, because I do need to work those muscles so that I can do that again. But I have to do just a little bit of it each time now, right?
And that's also important too, because doing a lot in a bad form is way worse than doing nothing.
Yes.
So doing a little and controlling your form. And can I just say this? These ridiculous little tiny PT exercises are so damn important.
Yes.
And, and I have to really come to terms with it too, because they are so important. Those ancillary muscles that are not getting touched when you try to go do too much in another activity, or they're not getting any love until you do those exercises. So anybody out there, do your PT, and then somebody call me to do my tell me to do my PT too.
Yes. Yeah, but I understand how it's difficult to do your PT, right? I remember, once I could just go to the physiotherapist, and the first time she gave me 2 exercises, and then she added another 2 and another 2, and at one point I went in and I said, "You never take an exercise away, do you?" I was up to like 2 or 3 hours a day of physical therapy at home, and I said, "Can we go over my exercise? There's got to be something I can take away, right?"
Yeah.
So my theory is PTs never ever take an exercise away. They only ever add more exercises to your routine. And that's hard, it's hard to spend 2 hours at home working on physical therapy, right?
It is, and it's important, but it is hard. I didn't do mine this morning. I'm feeling really guilty. I think that's why I brought it up.
No. Is that useful?
So,
Feeling guilty?
thank you. Sometimes I don't know, because maybe I'll do it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying there's an answer. It's such an interesting question.
I'm going to have to start asking myself that. Is it useful?
Is your guilt useful at this moment?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so what's the progression for you? What does it look like going forward?
Yeah, so I went from not walking to walking, and now I'm back at the gym, and I've slowly started hiking. I actually I booked myself a hiking trip at the end of June last January, thinking, no worries, I'll do it. Had to cancel that. No. And so now I'm actually hiking, and I'm preparing for a modified trip in September. So I'm hoping that in September, nothing like the Yukon, right? But kind of a low tech hiking trip in September with some rest days, staying extra days, certain places just to rest. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. And so I'm hiking. I'm at the gym 3 times a week, and I'm hiking once a week. Modified hiking once a week.
Sure.
To see if I can get there. And that's where I'm at now.
That's exciting.
It is.
What a transition. What a life lesson, and what a transition. And I really, I thank you so much for sharing it, because it's such an important message. I know there's other people out there that have gone through that, and unexpectedly, or even recovering after surgery, and understanding that it's okay to feel like this, and putting things into perspective.
Yeah. And what can I learn about myself? What is this teaching me? Right? All of those things are incredibly useful, because we often just kind of barrel through life. And so what did this?
Isn't it interesting where you have helped so many people write their story? And you said your favorite was memoirs.
Yeah.
And then here you are rewriting yours, or you said reframing yourself, and an active participant in rewriting your story as well. So poignant.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point about reframing. If you're in a situation and it feels dire and you're feeling really down, sit down and reframe. Right? Reframe it. Put yourself, if you're being told stories, or you're feeling, someone said, "Oh, you'll never be able to do this," just sit down and reframe. Reframe meaning put yourself back in the center of your own story. Right? And it's okay to change the story, right? Stories change. Think about my story. My story went from, I'll be playing volleyball in 4 months to, I kept having to reframe it. And that was okay. Right? Be okay with needing to reframe your story. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Fantastic. And so, Melody, where do people find you?
Oh, absolutely. You can find me at, well, you know what I'll tell you, authornation.online. So what you will find there are free resources. Whatever stage you happen to be in at the moment, you will find some free resources there for you. Whatever stage of the book writing process, not hiking or broken leg, the book writing process, you will find a resource for you there.
Thank you. I wish we were closer.
Yeah, we could hike.
Oh, Melody, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show was sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me, and if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.